Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. And welcome back. We got some serious business to attend to today. Very glad that you're here and with us. We're going to start the day out with a quick preview, then we'll zoom in on further detail. But some exciting news. The FBI apparently now getting involved in the discovery and the tracking down of the fleeing cowardly Democrats. We got an update from John Cornyn here today, and we got Ken Paxton, all of them coming out with new investigations, and apparently the FBI is getting involved. Cornyn is saying that they're looking into it and working with them. It comes in response to this letter that Cornyn sent over to them, which we'll take a look at and see what he was asking for. And then simultaneous with this, we got Ken Paxton, who's come out with a number of news releases. In fact, there was just another one he just dropped right now, which was the investigation into another George Soros operation. So he's looking at Beto, who's apparently flying these fleeing Democrats in and out of the state. And now they're getting looked into by the Attorney General. We're happy to see a Republican Attorney General act like an Attorney General for once. So that's good. We've got more. Now, one of the fleeing Democrats is Jasmine Crockett. You know her as Jasmine Crockett Fulliff. She is apparently the worst boss ever. I know it's shocking to all of us. You're kidding, Rob. Are you sure? Yeah, it's true. There is a new exclusive from the New York Post. Apparently, they talked to 3 former staffers who are all talking garbage on Jasmine Crockett. So we'll see what they said. Now, the House in Texas is moving along. They had a vote, Senate Bill 4. We got a deadline tomorrow. The Texas Supreme Court ordered Gene Wu, one of the fleeing Democrats, to respond to this. And so we got a bunch of stuff that we'll get back to tomorrow on this. But the Senate in Texas is moving this thing forward. And we've got a lot of conversations about redistricting. Even Ron DeSantis is saying, we're getting in on this game, baby. And we're going to redistrict too. You want to have a little redistricting war? Florida wants to join in the game. So all that we'll zoom in on and see what's happening there. Then we've got our attention that is caught by another FBI announcement, which is these people, you're fired, get out. Brian Driscoll, former acting FBI director, you're gone. And Steve Jensen, another one, you're gone, get out. You don't belong at the FBI because of your, in my opinion, corruption that we saw in the J6 cases. And we're going to read through one of these letters here from Brian. I believe it's from Brian. And these people are just hilarious. All right. So we'll read through it. He's just like, I'm so heroic. You're welcome for my service to you because I'm an amazing person. So anyways, they're all fired. And we've been waiting for this. Okay. We've been wondering what the heck is going on with the FBI, because we know that Pam Bondi did fire some people. We were waiting for Cash to do it. And here it is today. So thank you, Cash. All right. So we'll go through it. We've got Hans talking about this. We've got another update from the Federalist on just how bad the old FBI was and how they were covering up for the Democratic Party. We also saw this interesting story. There was the FBI, instead of tracking down J6ers and pro-lifers and parents at schools, they're actually going after soldiers who were charged with espionage. And I was trying to get more on this case to see what the complaint looked like. And it was not unsealed as of this morning. But this guy was apparently sending stuff over to the Russians, and so we'll go through it. Then we've got this one, which is pretty fun. This is a demand for sanctions. All right, so the backstory on this is that there was this attorney, apparently he's in California, and he was working pro bono on an immigration case. Remember, we were talking about all these lawyers crashing in, free lawyers, pro bono everything. Illegals get Roosevelt hotels, money stipends, they get cell phones, they get total human trafficking privileges, driver's license privileges, whatever they want. They also get free lawyers. And now the DOJ is saying this lawyer, Joshua Schroeder, should be sanctioned for his ridiculous filings and his frivolous arguments that he submitted in an immigration case. And we saw this, right? These immigration lawyers were going like crazy. They were just filing motions all over the place, like, to democracy, judge. And all the judges were like, yeah, democracy, gangbang, MS-13 gangbangers. And then they were preventing them from doing anything to remove these people from our beloved country. So now the DOJ is saying this dude should be sanctioned, okay? And this is a pretty aggressive move from the DOJ. And this might have a little chilling effect on the overly frivolous immigration lawyers that are out there. So it's going to be a great stream, my friends. We're very glad that you're here and with us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. If you haven't already done that, we'd love to see you back here. We also have great members only streams if you'd like to join us for those. We go live in the mornings. We do Saturday shows. We have an amazing members only community, the best ever. And we'd love to have you join us. So come join us. We have after parties and you can join on YouTube. Click the join button and you'll get a little icon in the chat and we'll love you for it. And you can join on Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you don't want to join up on YouTube. And we'll see you on the next members only stream. Thanks for supporting our show and our work here as well. We also now have business to attend to, starting with Texas. Here's the latest. The FBI now getting involved in tracking down the fleeing cowardly Democrats who have absconded from Texas. We got this update from Rena. She is reporting that in her inbox, she got this press release over from John Cornyn, and he is confirming this as well via his X account. Cornyn, a senator from Texas, says, the FBI, Kash Patel, has responded to my request to assist state and local law enforcement to locate the runaway Texas House Democrats and investigate potential offenses. Ken Paxton's looking into Beto and George Soros, and so we'll see if they are implicated for bribery. But thank you, Director Patel, for your swift response and action. More officially from Cornyn is he says, he announced the FBI has granted his request for the federal government to assist Texas in locating members of the Texas House of Representatives who have fled the state in a shameful attempt to thwart the legislative process. Some people might even say insurrect the government of Texas. I am proud to announce that Director Kash has approved this. We cannot allow them to avoid their duties and their requirements. Now, this was the letter that Kash ultimately got from Cornyn, United States Senator. He says, all right, Kash, listen, I'm writing to encourage you, the FBI, to take any appropriate steps to aid in Texas state law enforcement efforts to locate and arrest potential lawbreakers who have fled the state. As a maneuver to avoid legislative responsibilities, on August 3rd, many members in the Texas House absconded from the state. Their stated goal was to prevent the legislature from properly meeting in violation of their oath of office. By leaving the state of Texas, these legislators intend to prevent the existence of a quorum in the Texas House. And without a quorum, no legislative activity can proceed, and we're insurrected. In a representative democracy, we resolve our differences by debating and voting, not by running away. Some Texas legislators have fled to New York, and others have fled to Illinois on Pritzker's bosom. Since these state legislators are currently outside of Texas, we need your help. Out-of-state actors have made public comments about protecting the legislators who are currently hiding, and I request your assistance to locate them and to see if they're operating in violation of the law. The FBI has tools to aid our state law enforcement people when these parties cross state lines, including to avoid testifying or fleeing the scene of a crime. So we know how this works. If you're a fleeing felon, the FBI doesn't just say, well, nothing we can do about you. So specifically, I am concerned that they may have accepted funds in order to avoid their legislative duties, which means they're getting paid in exchange for political action, which is bribery. This is public corruption, and this is a time-sensitive matter. The Texas legislature is currently in a special session called by Governor Abbott with around 2 weeks left. And as Abbott noted, when the governor calls a special session, the legislature shall meet. It's not a may. It's not optional. If you decide you like the agenda, well, we just like, climate change? Oh, sure, we'll go to that one. That's not how it works. It's not the movies. The absence of a quorum prevents key votes on important areas of concern for Texans, like getting flooded out. For example, the recent floods, which caused unbearable tragedy, is just one issue. And so I'm encouraged by Governor Abbott. This is his strong leadership, but not Ken Paxton. He didn't put that in there, but he means that. Governor Abbott in Texas are doing what they can. And so these legislators have committed potential criminal acts. I urge you to work, Kash Patel and the FBI, with Texas to give them the support they need so they can go round up these fleeing Democrats from Texas. So Greg Abbott was out today, and he was speaking on this over at The First. And here is what he had to say about this from Texas.
Here's what we're doing. One is we have arrest warrants out for all of them. If there are some in Texas, which I understand that there may be, the Texas Department of Public Safety is searching for them. We'll find them. and we'll arrest them and take them to the Texas Capitol.
Nice.
Those who are out of state think that they are beyond the reach of Texas law enforcement, and that they may or may not be. But for one, when they come back, they're not going to go to their cozy home. They will be arrested and taken to the Capitol. But know this, it's my understanding that the FBI is going to search for these derelict Texas House members in whatever state they may be in and help identify for them and maybe work with us to bring them back. Point one. Point two is these Democrats, they have received money and benefits at their request to support them while they are gone. It is a direct violation of the Texas Constitution as well as Texas bribery laws for them to receive a benefit to skip a vote. They could be charged with second-degree felony for committing bribery in the state of Texas. Third, and it happened yesterday, I filed a petition in the Texas Supreme Court that begins the removal process.
We read it.
Of these absconding Democrat members. And the Supreme Court responded immediately last night and told the leading Democrat in this cause, his name is Gene Wu, that he has to respond to my petition by Friday, where we're going to begin the process of trying to remove these absconding Democrats from office.
Wow. So we got a threefold strategy, and we like what we're hearing here, including the arresting of these Democrats and hauling their butts right on back down to the Capitol, just like they're grounded. You can't leave. You're grounded for 2 weeks. Make them sit there. They don't have to do anything, okay? They just have to sit there and do their jobs. They don't even have to vote. All we need is their bodies, their warm bodies, which are basically, anyways, in the room. That's it. That's all we need. And so Greg Abbott is explaining that the Supreme Court has responded and said that they've got to get a response back in by tomorrow. And then they may just decide that they're vacated from their offices because they're not there doing their jobs. And it's basically an insurrection. Texas comes to a standstill because Democrat, the minority party, get to just leave. The whole state is frozen. What kind of law is that? I don't think the Supreme Court in Texas is going to look too kindly to that. So we've got Abbott now digging into it. We've got Beto, and let's not forget, okay, Fannie Willis and Letitia James. Tish came after Trump, tried to bankrupt his entire business enterprise. 50 years of productivity gone was her attempt. Same thing with E. Jean Carroll. And they were filing these lawsuits based on no evidence, based on basically made up claims. Tish's was like, Trump got a good loan. His interest rates were too good. And he may have had a statement that said the property was bigger by 1,000 feet or whatever it was. And it's just, inconsequential crap. This is paying legislators to leave so that your entire government is frozen out and coming to a standstill. And apparently Beto is the one who's behind a lot of it. And now he's under investigation. And so you can see we got Ken Paxton came out. He said, I just launched an investigation into Beto, his radical group, for unlawfully funding the runaway Democrats. And this is just the beginning because he's also going after the Soros folks. So Ken Paxton posted this. He says, hey, Beto, you're in big trouble. We're looking into your radical organization. It's called Powered by the People for an illegal finance and influence scheme. According to public reports, Beto's organization has been one of the top groups bankrolling the House fleeing Democrat cowards who abandoned Texans and vacated their offices. By providing these liberal lawmakers with the funds to flee the state, Powered by the People, Beto, may have violated bribery laws. Now, Powered by the People and the runaway Democrats may have also violated other Texas laws and abused their office. And so we're asking for some emails and some documents. We want to look at their business records, because when Trump, they say, marked his legal payments to his lawyer when he said legal expense, it wasn't actually that. They said it was a campaign expense, not a legal expense. So it was labeled wrong in the spreadsheet. And that was 34 counts of felonies. Remember? And then Hillary, when she was doing much worse than anything like that, they just gave her an FCC fine, like $100,000 for lying. And she said, what did she say? I think she said that her legal services were for the Steele dossier. Remember? Fusion GPS. That's legal services. It's not campaign oppositional research No, she never got charged with 100 felonies for whatever she did. She got an FCC fine. So now if we're going to have these financial crimes that they'll just use as an attack vector against Trump, well, how the tables have turned. And now, hopefully, we've got an attorney general and a state set of leaders who are willing to use the same tools that the Democrats have used against the Republicans. Fani Willis indicted like 19 Republicans, all of them, for just writing some letters, just for preparing a legal strategy. They didn't fund and bribe the legislature, the entire congressional body, to leave. Maybe they should have. Would that have been okay? So now we're taking a look at it. And Beto, man, he's in Beto trouble, that's for sure. So here is more. So also Soros is also getting hit. So this came out today from Ken. He says, all right, we're also launching an investigation into Texas Majority PAC, which is a radical PAC, bankrolled by George Soros, potentially because of their unlawful coordination and bribery of Democrat legislators who fled Texas to break quorum. Now, the Texas Majority PAC, the Soros org, was founded by former staffers of the failed gubernatorial candidate Beto. This dude's everywhere. Man, I don't know how he's going to do in prison. With a large radical donor base, the PAC is largely funded by billionaire Soros. This extremist group is part of a growing network of far-left organizations attempting to subvert the will of Texas voters. Reports indicate that they played a role in coordinating and assisting the illegal fundraising and potentially the bribery of the Texas Democrats. If Texas lawmakers are bowing to the Soros slush fund rather than the will of the voters, Texans deserve to know this, said Paxton. Getting financial payouts under the table to abandon your legislative duties is bribery. And their actions seem to indicate that it may be using Soros-funded resources to break the law and to fund the illegal abandonment of their public offices. Now, if that's the case as determined by our investigation, there will be a heavy price to pay. As part of this investigation, Paxton has issued a request to examine some of their documents, and we'll take a look at their spreadsheets and see how they look, see what those are for. Was it legal expenses or campaign expenses or something like that? Oh, you're bribing legislators. Got it. This follows Paxton's previous investigation of Powered by the People, and Beto is getting hit for multiple directions. So Attorney General Paxton has been dropping these press releases, and we're familiar with what's going on over there. But we've also seen Beto is responding. So Beto came out, and Ken Paxton, he said, Beto is scared of accountability. And Beto's now talking garbage on him, too, over on X. He says, you're investigating me? Paxton got impeached for bribery. He's going after folks trying to stop more theft of 5 congressional seats. It's not theft. It's operation of law. I encourage everyone to text fight, he says, to some stupid number. Let's stop these thugs before they steal our country. Get out of here. You're trying to steal the legislature by sending them over to hang out with Bosom Pritzker. So then Paxton, he responded. He said, Beta O'Rourke is scared of accountability. No one's above the law. It's true. They told us that for 4 years. It's like seared into our brains. And any lawless liberal that took a bribe will face justice. He says, scared, if we stop the Texas steal and win the House, your guys' crimes and corruptions will be exposed for all to see. What? The girls traded with Epstein. Oh, gosh, he's going down that road. The bribes taken from foreign governments. And when he goes down, your corrupt, impeached, twice indicted butt is going down with him. Oh, it's getting hot over there in Texas. Hey, Beto, you're talking garbage to the attorney general. And we'll see what happens here. So this is going to be fun. So Beto talking garbage. What's up, Benny Johnson over there? We got now one Texas Democrat. Her name is Jasmine Crockett. Well, the truth is coming out about Jasmine. Turns out she's all diva. No wow at all, which we already knew. Now, Trump critic Jasmine Crockett is a no-show boss. This is according over to an exclusive report from the New York Post. They got their hands on, I think, 3 different staffers, 3 sources, 3 different people. That's a party. Says that they have worked for Crockett and that she's rarely present when TV cameras aren't there. But if the TV cameras are there, Jasmine Crockett pops up and terrorizes staff when she does appear, which we can relate to because she terrorizes our eardrums when she shows up on camera. But here's the background. Now, she has positioned herself as a critic of Trump, but congressional aides tell the New York Post that the Dallas Democrat out of Texas is just as rude and mean to her own staff. She's a loudmouth. She's 44. She has rocketed to fame since taking office as a fiery antagonist. But she's not even at the office building, okay? She just hangs at home, probably in her PJs. It is not often found at her government-provided suite. One insider says that she prefers to work from home from her nearby luxury apartment building. Oh, gosh. Sometimes for weeks on end. Just, no, I'm doing congressional business here. What are you doing? Someone should check her Netflix watch habits. She is never in the office and is very disengaged. She does her bull crap that goes viral, and then she freaks out over the most random things. A second source close to Crockett's team also added, saying it's widely known that she's not nice to staff and is just not a really dedicated member who's focused on her constituents, obviously. She is focused almost exclusively on being an influencer, not a member of Congress, said a third source who described her all diva, no wow, which is savage. That's brutal. Like, of all the things that anyone has ever said to Jasmine, that's probably it. She's like, what? Am I all diva? And no wow? She's having those long, like, cut scenes in movies where she's staring into the mirror and the rain is, dripping down the window. All diva, all diva, all diva. You're so stupid if you think so. When Crockett does show up for work on Capitol Hill, often to attend a committee hearing where she just goes nuts on the stand, she prefers to have a staff member drive her the short distance in a rented car rather than the staffer's own car, which is a cheaper option currently used by lawmakers. She's like, what do you drive? A Toyota. I'm a congresswoman. I'll take an Escalade, please. So I don't know what they're renting. And it's probably one of those. The staffer is expected to stand outside the vehicle. It's an Escalade. It is an Escalade. I swear I didn't read it first. It has to be an Escalade or a similar upscale make. I swear I didn't read it. And open the door for her. Oh, hilarious. You're technically allowed to do this, but it's wildly inefficient. Instead of just using the scheduler's car, she rents a car every week she's in DC. She expects her staff to drive her around while she's in the back seat. She calls it a power play. She treats her staff like an Uber driver. Hilarious. Crockett's a former criminal defense attorney, which is a shame to criminal defense attorneys. It really wrecks the whole profession. And Texas state legislator burst into the national spotlight when she called Marjorie, remember this? Bleach blonde, bad built butch body from her. Wow, that's just some serious alliteration right there. And then Green called her fake eyelashes, which look like Venus flytraps out there all over everybody. While Crockett tried to fundraise off the Real Housewives style viral clash, the Congresswoman's staff, which includes multiple gay and lesbians, were left with mixed feelings. Look at these two. So complaints have poured in from lesbians. Oh, who objected to Crockett's derogatory term of the term butch. Like, what does that mean? So what if we're butch? We'll punch you in the nose, which even left some aides uneasy. You can't call somebody butch? That's a lesbian thing? Well, all right. Well, I don't have an opportunity to say much of that stuff. But anyways, she told her gay staff member, she said, it's not offensive, you big body butch bees. You're stupid if you think so, a former aide said. It was kind of how, like, Trump says, the gays love me. She's like, oh, shut up. All the butch lezbies love me, okay? Just take it easy. 3 months later, Crockett was given a coveted speaking slot at the DNC, and then she came out. She said, vindictive, vile villain, because she had just watched V for Vendetta, and her voluptuous, very volatile voice needed to be exercised. So toxic staff environment. Crockett has also burned through a set of employees at such a pace that she's known, just like Jasmine, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, long called the Capitol's toughest boss, whatever that means. A number of staff have become fed up with their own treatment, while others have been fired or left on their own, a distinction often difficult to discern in Washington. Now, some Jasmine Crockett former aides feared retribution when declining to participate. Like, oh, no, that chick's crazy. She'll kill us. She'll drive her car into our houses. We're not commenting on your story. Get out of here. She's nuts. She thinks that she's her own best advisor. She knows best and has this toxic staff environment. She gets rid of press people because she's like, I do all the press stuff. On one occasion described by the Post, Crockett reduced a legislative aide to tears. Do you really want to be here? And if not, you can leave. Another aide, a young black woman, can you believe this racism, was fired abruptly and confided to a colleague, I don't want to hear Jasmine Crockett talk about helping black women when she just fired one for no reason. Racism. Because she must hate black people, apparently. What a bigot. Capitol Hill jobs often are filled based on personal connections, and openings are circulated among friend groups. But a source told the Post that a job listing for Crockett's team recently was shared among a group of friends, a large group of black Democratic women. Like, does it mean a large group, like in terms of numbers, or something else, like a large group? I don't know. But nobody expressed interest in the gig. Yeah. Well, nobody wants to work with her. Says, you would think working for a black woman, if you were a young black woman or a young person of color, that you would feel empowered in that space. But no, racist Crockett, truly the only person that she thinks about and cares about is herself. We see it on display every day. Clinical narcissism. Now, the staff is really just an island unto itself because she doesn't care about the local issues happening in her district. In fact, she's more focused on get me on The View, get me on this talk show, get me over here. A lot of congressional hearings are the most boring, basic crap. So how is it at every hearing it's about Trump? It's about Trump again and again and again. And it's like she's not actually doing any real work. She's at a hearing. We can be talking about the budget. They can be talking about appropriations. She brings it back up to Trump every time because that's their entire personality and their entire basis of existence is to just be anti-Trump. They are meaningless without it. Now, here we can see the article continues. She causes some kind of tension and issues. The hearing has to stop because she's going maniac, big butch body, whatever. The chairman has to bang the gavel. It's a spectacle and a show. You know, not everything has to be clipped for MSNBC. And we appreciate those hearings, actually. Like, I've seen a couple of those recently. There was one hearing I watched on China. And even Raskin was like, all right, so like I got some pretty serious questions about China. And like he was like, all right, that's pretty bad. And other Democrats were like, oh, that's pretty bad too. And it was like, wow, all right, so some real business getting done, not Jasmine Crockett doing her eyelash thing. Crockett has also cycled through several chiefs of staff, with one observer saying it's because they want her to do her actual job, you know, the actual job of a member of Congress. It isn't fun and glamorous. So unless you're somebody willing to say yes to all the outrageous things she would like you to do, you're not going to last long. Now, Crockett hasn't even been coy about this. She offered 2 examples of rough treatment on this, saying that she talked to The Atlantic and she explained it. She said she can also be brusque. During our interview, she dialed up a staffer in DC in front of me and scolded the staffer. She's getting interviewed by this lady. She's like, hold on, let me take care of this pathetic staffer of mine. Scolded him for an unclear note on her schedule. What the heck is this? Another time in the car after an aide brought Crockett a paper bag full of food for a fundraiser, she peered inside, scrunched her nose, and said, this looks like crap. This is not fit for me. What? Get this out of my Escalade, okay? It's not good enough. The Texas Congresswoman, despite granting Godfrey access to her profile, attempted to retract her interview remarks when the journalist didn't ask her permission to request comment from other members of Congress, most of whom would not volunteer flattering words. The lawmaker claimed she was shutting down the profile. I'm shutting this down and revoking all permissions. You can't print this, but I'm sure they did anyways. Now, it wasn't her first self-inflicted problem. In a way, in May, she allegedly boarded a commercial flight ahead of 2 handicapped people. She's firing black women and cutting in line in front of 2 handicapped people who are, I think appropriately said, called differently abled these days. Look at this. Jasmine. Lisa McClain. Jasmine Crockett with a taxpayer-funded police escort, cutting everyone in line because she's so special. Even making disabled people wait. Nothing to see here. It's just your worst congresswoman. And what is she doing over here? Looking at her right here. Like, look how special I am. Yes, I'm Jasmine Crockett. Look at this nice lady. Disabled, handicapped, differently able, differently bodied, And she is having a congresswoman just cut right in front of her. It's not your time. It's not, Diamond Excellence Excalibur past time, Jasmine. Okay, it's for disabled people. Very, very rude and condescending. Look at her. Just getting in there, ready to cut in front of this dude, too. This guy, broken leg, maybe served our country, who knows. But he's disabled. And now Jasmine's going to cut him off. Sick times. So she's fled. We know how terrible she is. She cut in front of a line of a handicapped person. It's really indicative of the type of person she is. And she is interpersonally very rude. She doesn't get along well with anybody. The Post did not receive a reply after sending multiple email requests to her. Well, she's probably in her luxury apartment or in her Escalade. So she's not answering emails right now. Nobody answered the phones at her DC or Dallas offices during the workday. Both went straight to voicemail. It's perfect. She's binge watching whatever's new on Netflix. She's got other things to worry about. Okay, leave her alone. Stop harassing her. Okay, so if you do, you're fired. All right, so there's Jasmine. Now she's fled. Hopefully they wrap her up first and bring her on back to the Capitol. Oh, they probably know where she is. She's right in her luxury apartment. So the FBI can just read the New York Post. Jasmine probably has no idea what's even going on since she doesn't answer the phone. So that's happening there. Now, meanwhile, the Texans have pushed this forward. You see here, Corey A. DeAngelis posted this. He says, break in, the Texas Senate Special Committee on Congressional Redistricting just passed a map that could lead to 5 more Republican seats in Congress. The vote was 6-1, and it now goes to the Senate floor. And of course, we got some big deadlines tomorrow from the Supreme Court. We should expect to see the Democrats' legal filing, and the Supreme Court, according to Greg Abbott, should and will be considering whether to define them as being vacating their offices, abandoning their jobs. Here's what happened in Texas.
But the official count in committee will be 6 ayes and 1 nay.
1 absent, 1 present.
1 absent and 1 present not voting.
All right, so it moves forward. The Hill reports over here that what happened was this is moving forward. So they advanced a new GOP-friendly House map on Thursday. That's the day to quickly move forward in both chambers. 6-1 vote. The House map is going to give 5 more pickup opportunities. Austin, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Rio Grande. The move on the Texas Senate committee teased the House lines for a floor vote. But with Texas Democrats gone, they can't really do much. So other people like this Texas Democrat who sits on the redistricting committee strongly condemn this. I'm truly saddened. Okay, so go talk to Pritzy and he'll help you through it. So that's what's happening there. Now, this guy is called Brad Todd, and he was getting into it over on CNN about who's really doing the redistricting and why the Republicans are just catching up and playing the same game the Democrats are playing. So don't lecture us about it.
One of the big things is it helps decide congressional maps.
Right.
Does this have everything to do with redistricting?
Well, it does. In fact, we know the 2020 census, the errors were almost always to the detriment of red states. Blue states like Rhode Island.
Do we know that?
We do know that. The Census Bureau's own audit of its work has proven that. Blue states like Rhode Island were overcounted. Rhode Island then didn't lose a seat. Red states like Alabama were undercounted. This is just a fact. It wasn't all red-blue, but it was disproportionately red-blue.
All right, so good stuff there. And we also see in Florida, we got Ron DeSantis who's saying, you know what? We're going to look into it too. Why not?
Ron, they include anybody that happens to be in your state.
Well, California would lose like 5 seats if they did a fair census. And even beyond that, the Biden census gypped Florida of at least 1 seat. We only got 1 seat in the last census. Are you trying to tell me that Florida only had 1 seat in that? We should have had at least 2. Texas should have had another one. That could be the difference in the House of Representatives and the majority. So I would love for them to redo the census for 26. My legislature will redistrict those lines. We'll get it to where it's fair. But as it's right now, this country is not fairly apportioned. I've got so many more millions of people in Florida that have representation because of that flawed census.
Mr. President, I think it's going to do very well. A lot of people, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's captivated the country. Everybody wants it. It's going to get in. It's going to pass. And we're going to be around.
That's right. We're going to get actual representation in this country. And there are many states where we saw yesterday in the numbers there are 30 to 40, sometimes 45% of the state that has zero representation because all of the seats are blue. So how can a third to 40% of a state have zero representation? Doesn't seem appropriate at all. And so now Republicans are playing and fighting with the same tools the Democrats are using, and we're excited to see it. So FBI now confirming that they're assisting in the tracking down of these fleeing cowardly Democrats. We'll keep our eye on this one, my friends. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. Now, we're not done yet. Let's continue to talk about the FBI because this was another delicious story today and some good developments. Senior FBI officials finally fired. Been waiting for this to happen for quite some time. We saw Pam Bondi fire some other prosecutors, and a lot of the Jack Smith people are gone too. And there have been some changes in the Department of Justice. But what about the FBI and those J6 agents who were weaponizing that department against Americans who were there, most of whom were peacefully protesting until they were shot in the face by the cops on the balcony? Now, here you see CNN is saying, the firing has happened, and these two are gone. We've talked about them both here before. Brian Driscoll and Stephen Jensen canned. Good news, good riddance. Two senior FBI officials, including one who initially resisted Trump's information and his efforts to gather the names of agents. This was this guy, Brian Driscoll. Remember, he was like, we're not going to give you their names. Trump said, I want names of everybody who worked on the J6 cases. I want the janitors. I want the file clerks. I want the toner guy. Okay. I want the water jug changer. Whoever did that, I want to know who it is. We wanted to know too. And Brian said, well, we're not going to give you all of that because you don't need it. And he was just going to give them their employee numbers. Remember? Like, what's so wrong, Brian? Are you so concerned about your corrupt agents that are there? Yeah, they are. So to gather the names of agents who worked on cases, they're being fired. Multiple sources tell CNN, and we got Brian's letter, which is of course, as pathetic as you'd expect. Now, he was acting FBI director in the weeks before Kash Patel was confirmed. And we watched this for a while. He is being dismissed by Steve Jensen, the other acting director in charge of Washington, is also gone. And apparently there's also Walter Giardina, who's also gone, who was the guy who went after Navarro. Let's see if they get there. But the administration is also firing other agents, according to three sources. FBI and Washington field office declined to comment. CNN's reached out, not gotten anything. But in a CNN letter that they obtained, Stephen Jensen, so it wasn't Driscoll's email, he wrote to his colleagues that he was informed. He writes to everybody, sends this email because they all do that. They're just like big whiners. They have to have the final word. Remember Maureen Comey emailed her entire office. Hey, I just want to let you guys know how heroic and amazing I am and how much dignity and integrity I have. And I will continue to have that. And I know that you will too. It's like, you need to even send this to me? Just talk to yourself in the mirror. Like, don't put this in my inbox. Says, he wrote, I was informed, colleagues, that my employment with the FBI will be terminated effective tomorrow, August 8th, which is nice. They should have walked him out right there with a box. Here you go. Oh, I can't. That's as big as it gets. You can take trips. I intend to meet this challenge like any other I have faced in this organization. Okay? You hear how self-aggrandizing it is? It drives me crazy. I'm going to meet this challenge. You got fired for being a partisan hack. The challenge was to do your job with actual honor, and you didn't. With professionalism, integrity, and dignity, okay? So I'm going to meet this challenge like I've done before, like a professional, like somebody with integrity and somebody with dignity. Would you ever talk about yourself this way? Like, could you imagine if I started the show that way? Hey, everybody, welcome to the show where we just care only about where your host is the most professional, the host with the highest integrity, and I have tremendous dignity, and that's why you should be here and like me. What? We have much bigger values that are broader than that are about accountability and transparency, which make us strive to be something better than we are. He's talking about himself. And we are debating all of those points: professionalism, integrity, and dignity. Now, I am confident that the Washington field office leadership team will continue to lead through any challenges that you may face in the future. And part of me thinks that he has to talk like this. Like, I wonder why they always write these letters. They drive me nuts. And I know we spent a lot of time on them because they just, I can't take it. But are they talking to children? It's almost like you're talking to like a group of kids. It's like, listen, guys, like, look, I know this was a tough hike. All right. But we did it. Like, we did it as a team and we made it up together. Right? Like, yeah, I know. That was a good one. And they make it back down the hill and they're stronger for it. Is it like that? Like he's like, I know you guys can persevere without me. You'll live on. It's like the concluding speech in a movie before someone dies or something. Like, just leave. Jensen noted that he comes from a long line of law enforcement professionals, okay? Just like my father and my father before him. We have been protecting America. And he encouraged his colleagues to never waver in your resolve, to answer the call, to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. Be the FBI, he says. This is the most pathetic thing I think we've read recently. In the first weeks, since the last FBI letter, in the first weeks of the second Trump administration, you see what I mean. This is like ridiculous, right? It's pathetic. At least 6 senior officials at the executive assistant director level or special agent in charge level, including those who oversee cyber national security and criminal investigations, were ordered to retire, resign, or be fired. Get out. Among the issues that caused the discord was Brian Driscoll, not disciplining an FBI pilot for Patel after it was discovered he was involved in issuing a subpoena in the Mar-a-Lago investigation into Trump and associates, right? Yeah. So Driscoll was covering up for the Mar-a-Lago FBI people, for the J6 FBI people, protecting all of them. Now, earlier this year, a plan to quickly fire more than 100 mid-level and senior employees blew up into a weekend-long standoff between then Deputy AG Emil Bove, who's going to the Second Circuit now, and Driscoll, and sparked internal protest against the move inside the agency, right? The FBI put up their defenses. There was an antibody response, right? You tried to purge the infection, and the infection fought back. So the rebellion prompted Trump to appoint a loyalist podcaster called Dan Bongino, as deputy director. And apparently Dan was going to resign and then didn't. Now he's happy back again. So the demand earlier this year for thousands of names, we want every name involved in the J6 cases. It came from Emil Bove. Shout out. I got to shake his hand, say what's up. Who said in a memo at the time that the list of names would be reviewed for any firing or personnel actions, according to the memo. We were excited to see that. We're like, let's go. Put it in a spreadsheet, send it over. And then they all sued. Remember, we covered all the lawsuits, like 2 FBI agents who have unions and associations to represent them because I guess the FBI is not a big enough gang to be a part of. They have to go get another union and an association to represent them against the government since they're such amazing public servants. But anyways, so they sued. They said, you can't give us our names up. We're special. We don't get accountability like anybody else does. All right. You're accountable. You've got a boss. We've all got bosses. We all got somebody we report to and follow rules for. And this is something that apparently FBI agents don't have. So the FBI, Bove said, you actively participated in a grave national injustice. And so I want your names. Now, Driscoll, we read this. He said, this request encompasses thousands of employees. This fired FBI agent, Brian, said, I'm not going to give you this. There are thousands of people all across the country who supported this. Yes, we know. Both Driscoll and Jensen had been with the FBI for 20 years, which is why it's great they're gone, including in leadership roles. In 2020, Jensen served as the section chief for terrorism. Yeah, in 2020. Yeah, we know. And their terrorism was all the J6ers. Driscoll, who has been awarded the FBI Medal of Valor, no one cares. FBI Shield of Bravery, no one cares. Also served as the commander because all they do is like, they give themselves like stamps that they put on their own refrigerators. I got an award today, honey. Great job, Stephen Jensen. You did a great job, honey. He was not present. The U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro declined to address questions about his departure. And yes, maybe there was some heroism. So I don't know what they got those awards for. So maybe there was something good that they did in those situations. But it is now tainted by their partisan hackery and their corruption. And so they've decided to wreck their own legacies. And all those awards and all that good deed done is now meaningless from my perspective because they violated their oaths and now they're gone. And so we're happy to see it. Now, Hans Monkey, he's also telling us that Walter Giardina is also apparently gone. And this was the dude who was highly involved in the Steele dossier and the prosecution of Peter Navarro. And so Walter Giardina, he says, has finally been fired. He was part of this onslaught. We haven't seen it confirmed officially in the other reporting, but he was a relentless anti-Trump operative, and he was embedded in all of these major attacks. So he's now gone, and we're happy to see it. Now, the FBI, meanwhile, the new FBI hopefully is changing things, but the old FBI, they just covered up for Democrats. Now we're actually seeing some justice. Here was another report from the Federalist written over by Hans Monkey. And Hans, of course, wrote the book called Swift Boating America, which is perhaps the authority on a lot of the Crossfire Hurricane stuff. But here is what he writes. The FBI never even investigated the allegations that Loretta Lynch was working with Hillary's team. All they did is just present it to her. And we've covered this. In the Durham appendix, they said, hey, Loretta, we know, according to Democrat operatives in the DNC chair, that you're coordinating with the Clinton campaign. You're the attorney general. And remember, Loretta Lynch also hung out on the tarmac with Bill Clinton. And we remember how long that was. And I do believe we have a file on that at watcherfiles.com. Let's take a look at Lynch and see what we've got on her, because we do, I think, even have that. Yeah, actually have the tarmac video. Yeah, look at those two walking on over there, getting on the airplane. Bill and Loretta Lynch. And this came over from Abe Amade. Shout out to our Arizona congressman, saying, yeah, it's very curious. And suddenly Hillary Clinton, of course, did not get charged with any crimes because James Comey came out and covered up for her. So the meeting was 20 to 30 minutes. They say Loretta Lynch brought her husband on there, but he might have just sat in the back or something. I don't know. But Loretta Lynch, of course, was, in our opinion, and according to the Durham report, colluding with the Hillary Clinton campaign in order to rig the election. So now, hopefully, she's investigated as well. But the FBI is focusing on some other things in addition to this. We saw this other story about a soldier, apparently 22 years old. His name is Taylor Adam Lee. He's out of Texas. He was arrested on charges of attempted transmission of national defense information over to the Russians. And we haven't seen much information on this yet, but according to court documents, he's an active duty service member stationed in Fort Bliss, holds a top secret security clearance, SCI, sensitive compartmented information. And from May 25 to the present, he sought to establish his U.S. Army credentials and send defense info to the Russians. In June, he transmitted export-controlled technical information on the M1A2 Abrams tank online, offered assistance to the Russian Federation, and in July, they just caught him at an in-person meeting between Lee and who he thought was a representative of the Russians. It's probably just an FBI agent. Lee allegedly passed an SD card to the individual, and he proceeded to provide a detailed overview of the documents on the tank, combat operations, and more. Several of those documents did contain data that Lee did not have authorization to hand over. Other documents on the card were marked as controlled, featured banner warnings, dissemination controls. He stated, it's sensitive. He knew it was likely classified, but did it anyways. During and after the meeting, he discussed obtaining and providing a specific piece of hardware inside the tank. Oh, you need one of those? I'll get one of those. On July 31st, Lee delivered what appeared to be the hardware to a storage unit in El Paso. After doing so, he sent a message to the person, the FBI agent that he thought was a Russian. He said, "Mission accomplished, comrade." Then the FBI said, cool, we're on our way. FBI, Washington, and El Paso are investigating the case, and he's now been charged with crimes. And so he's got, looks like, an attorney who is being appointed for him, co-counsel, got a hearing coming up for detention on the 11th. And so he's in custody right now, but we have not seen the sealed complaint or the complaint filed yet. The arrest warrant and the other documents are very short and basic. He's been charged by criminal complaint here, Western District of Texas, as you can see. And we had another very blurry scan that also came in saying he was arrested for violation of the Espionage Act. he's a U.S. citizen, but he presents a high risk of fleeing, and so we don't want him out of custody. He does have a prior criminal history, and so we cannot release him. So let us keep him here. Sounds like he's a citizen. So, yeah, so obviously they want to, keep him here. If he was an illegal, they'd say, oh, no, we have to let him go because of due process or whatever. But he's a citizen, so they just keep him in custody. So FBI focusing on some actual traitors and, treasonous behavior, which is good to see, rather than rounding up the parents at the school board meeting. So FBI firing senior officials. And we're excited to see this. We want to see reform through and through. And this is a good start. And I've had the opportunity to hear from the whistleblowers when I was back in DC, and there were some very concerning statements from them on their beliefs about what the FBI is and how it can be resolved, if at all. And so we're going to work on talking to them about a lot of that, but FBI seemingly making some reforms. We're happy to see it. We're going to keep supporting Cash and Dan as the effort continues. All right, and now we got one final update on the day, my friends, and this is a pretty fun one. Actually, the Trump DOJ now demanding sanctions. And this one's a little unusual because it's sanctions personally against an individual immigration lawyer. Okay. This immigration lawyer called Joshua something here with an S, Schroeder here. Joshua Schroeder, they say, is an immigration lawyer from California who just came skidding into this case. And he's like, I'm going to represent this illegal alien called Vang Lor and file a bunch of motions. And this is what Joshua J. Schroeder looks like. It's this fella over here. They say Joshua is a multi-published, this is Schroeder Law, multi-published legal scholar and lawyer, and top focuses on copyright and federal jurisdiction and immigration. And he started right before COVID to help immigrants and asylum seekers and all the other things. And he's over in California, Oregon, and elsewhere. And so that's the guy we're talking about. Now, he is getting hit with a demand for sanctions. And you can see the DOJ said this guy was filing frivolous motions and was acting a fool. And so he needs to be penalized for this. As a deterrence, he needs to be hit with fines for wasting everybody's time and filing a bunch of bad motions. They write, all right, Judge, listen up. This petitioner's counsel is called Joshua J. Schroeder. And this attorney, on behalf of this client, is acting in bad faith, unreasonably, and vexatiously multiplied proceedings by maintaining positions without basis in fact and law. He without making a reasonable or competent inquiry and for an improper purpose, with no evidence in support or with knowledge to the contrary. This lawyer came out and he argued the government was removing this guy called Vang Lor under the AEA. He came into court, Your Honor, they're going to throw my client out of the country. But he knew that wasn't true, says the Trump DOJ. That was false. In fact, Lor had instead been convicted of attempted murder and was being removed under a final order of removal that was issued under the INA. Okay, we have a valid order to remove this guy. So don't tell the court that we're using this power to do it. We're not using the AEA. We're using the INA. So why are you telling the judge that we're using a different provision of the law when you know it's different? Schroeder, nevertheless, this lawyer, persisted, says Trump's DOJ, in making frivolous arguments for the improper purpose of forestalling Lor's lawful removal to Laos in not only this court, but also in the district court for Texas and also the Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. So this dude just filing motions everywhere to stop this guy from getting deported because he's an attempted murderer. His vexatious conduct has cost the American taxpayers, this lawyer, a lot, requiring the government to respond to repeated, patently meritless filings in 3 separate courts to take Lor off his original flight to Laos, to hold him in custody for days, and to arrange new travel to Laos once this court dismissed his meritless petition, okay? We had to drag this guy all over the place because this lawyer was just filing like a fool. This court should sanction Schroeder's conduct. Trump's DOJ says it should impose sanctions to deter Schroeder from continuing to multiply baseless proceedings. And given the nationally important need for the government to, enforce the law, sanctions are essential for general deterrence of misconduct and you start hitting these immigration lawyers with big fat $10,000 sanctions, we'll see if they keep filing pro bono for all these illegals. As the president has explained, the immigration system is replete with examples of unscrupulous behavior by attorneys and law firms. And I personally think that the Kilmar lawyers are liars too. I don't think they have any evidence that Kilmar has anything that says he's not removable to El Salvador. I don't think there's anything. I don't think they've admitted they don't even have the A file. They have other documents. The judge, you don't have it? No, they don't even have it. Behavior that thwarts the ability to carry out the will of the people. So here's the background. Lore is this person that Schroeder is representing. He's a native of Laos, and he was admitted to the United States as a lawful permanent resident in 1987, so legally here. But then in 1998, he pleaded guilty to attempted murder. Oh, that's good. Glad he came over here. 22 years imprisonment. So then, after he's in prison, in February 2018, Homeland commenced removal proceedings under the INA. They served a notice to appear on Lore. They filed it in immigration court in California. That notice said, you're removable. You committed an aggravated felony, and so we're throwing you out. In March, he appeared pro se. Okay, so he represented himself in a proceeding before an immigration judge. That's called due process. He affirmatively waived his right to counsel, and he answered the notice. He denied that he was a citizen there, but admitted he was born there, and corrected the allegation that his prison term was only 9 years, is what he said. Now, after the immigration judge heard the evidence, found Lore removable, and directed his removal. Now, he disclaimed any fear of being returned to Laos. He affirmed he wished to be removed there, all in the proceedings. The immigration judge asked further questions to see if Lore might be entitled to any other relief. Are you being abused or being tortured? No. Okay, well, all right, you're gone. The immigration court again said, are you sure you don't want to get a lawyer before you go? He says, no, I don't need a lawyer. I just want to get this over with, okay? I conclude my case. I waive my right to appeal. Send me back to Laos, and that's fine. Lore was accordingly removed pursuant to the INA. I'm sorry, ordered removed, wasn't actually removed. So he got due process. They said goodbye. So then in March, Trump wins. The president issued a proclamation invoking the AEA. He said Trinidad Aragua gangbangers must go. But Lore, this person, was never designated an alien enemy. And he could not be, given his Laotian nationality. Now, in April, Lore was detained by ICE. April 2025, not long ago. He's picked up. On May 24th, he called his wife, called Now Zhang, to tell her. He said, hey, honey, I'm getting removed to Laos. They caught me. She says, oh, no. On May 25th, she goes and hires this lawyer. She goes, hires this law firm. Hey, help my husband. So he goes wild. He files a bunch of motions saying he filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus in Texas, which had jurisdiction. That's the right location. Now, he also represented, he said, well, it's not exactly clear to me what his immigration status is. He's, I don't know. The petition said, though, Lore has had no due process, because that was the stupid line that all the ACLU lawyers were saying. Due process, due process, due process. What do you think appearing before a judge is? Saying he had no chance to be heard before an impartial decision maker. Yes, he did. How could you put that in a pleading? The petition alleged that Lore was being held in actual or constructive military detention and was being treated as a prisoner of war, says this lawyer, and that removal appears to be an extraordinary rendition without any process notice or known legal basis. It identified 20 claims of relief, each one tied to the AEA and the proclamation, which he was not even detained under. Shortly after the petition was filed, the lower court ordered the government not to remove this guy because the judges are all freaked out. Like when you're a lawyer, you have a duty of candor to the court. You got to be honest. You can't lie, and you can't overly exaggerate things. You can advocate for your clients and argue within the confines of reason and rationality. But if you start to exaggerate things and you're like, he's being waterboarded by Tom Homan in Texas. What are you talking about? No, he's not. So how dare you say something like that to the judge? And the judge is going to say, well, you have a duty of candor. You're licensed. You should be acting honorably. And honestly, they accept it. What are they supposed to do? Now, Schroeder then filed motions for a TRO and class certifications, and he was inspired by the ACLU. He was like, yeah, they're doing it. I'm going to fight too. On May 26th, the government made an emergency request to clarify the court order. They say, all right, so we can still remove him because he's suing under the AEA, but we're not even using the AEA. So grant whatever he wants. We're not even using it. Rather than this, because we're removing him under the INA, they sent in his removal order. They said, well, he appeared. Here's his criminal records. Our case is airtight. The government further explained that you're going to make us fly him around and fly him back to Guam and all this stuff. Like, we're removing him. The plane carrying this dude landed at Guam at a planned stopover. And because the judge came out and issued an order, the government left him there in Guam. The flight continued to Laos without him. The government housed him at a detention center down there. And I'm sure that's not really enjoyable for him. Like, the dude wanted to go to Laos. And now his lawyers are like keeping him in Guam. Presented with evidence of his removability, then the Northern District of Texas denied the motion. All right, so once they stalled and stopped this whole thing and he's now stopped up in Guam, then the documents come through and the judge is like, oh, wait, he did have due process and there's a valid order? Then why'd this lying lawyer say differently? Finding that Lohr had not shown a likelihood of success because the government's evidence said he was not being removed under the AEA at all. It was the INA. So the court said, oh, well, we got a valid order, so I guess take him out. So Schroeder then filed a renewed motion. This lawyer says, I'm not done yet. He continued to invoke the AEA. He says, well, I'm going to just invoke it again. He argued that the INA was intertwined with the AEA. He says the same thing. He further said the government had transformed immigration enforcement into a military matter and was giving immigrants no notice or opportunity to be heard regarding where they were removed to, or if they're killed, or if they're removed into the ocean. TikTok brain. All the people on the Democrat feeds saying that Trump was throwing illegals out of an airplane into the Pacific. He objected that Lohr's removal order or into the Gulf of America. He objected that Lohr's removal order had not been served on Lohr's counsel and that had no notice had been given to any of this. He said the government violated the district court's order too. Like, the guy's just going nuts. Now, on May 27th, the government responded. They said it was meritless and bordered on nonsensical for this lawyer to recast as a violation of Lohr's rights or comply. We literally complied with the court order. We took him off the airplane in Guam. What else do you want? Now you're mad at us for that? The government provided additional evidence that he got notice. We told him he was being removed. He had plenty of notice. And we observed that Lohr could have challenged his removal at any time. But now he's gone, and now you don't have jurisdiction over this. So then the lawyer came back, filed another emergency motion with the court, not letting up. He's inspired by the ACLU people. Seeking a transfer of venue to another court or a dismissal. He then criticized the district court. He said, how can you allow our jurisdiction to be destroyed? Government responded, you're meritless. And because Lohr was in Texas, that's where the district is. He's in Texas. That's where he's housed. That's where the habeas is filed. So then Schroeder replied. He contended that the case could have been filed in Guam if the government had given previous notice that they were going to take him off. He accused the government of subterfuge in its venue argument, characterizing the argument as an admission that the writ of habeas corpus had been suspended, and the guy just goes nuts. He insinuated that the government intended to lie about removing Lohr, instead subjecting them to death by firing squad, marooning them on deserted islands, or drowning them in the sea. All right. And he again accused the government without any evidence or contrary to the law of intentionally destroying jurisdiction. Now, while all this was pending, Schroeder filed another petition, basically the same here in a different court. He continued to assert his claims even after we gave him evidence that he had a removal order under the INA. And he even spoke with Lohr by phone, and he was working with his immigration lawyer. Now, then he filed an emergency motion in this court. The motion again said you can't remove him. And the motion made false claims. He said Lohr was not given notice about why he was being removed. They said, we showed you the document that we gave him that he probably signed. Did you get notice of this? You understand it? Yes. Yes, I signed it. Here it is. And not given a chance to rebut those allegations. Now, in an attached declaration made under penalty of perjury, this lawyer said, Schroeder asserted that his criminal history and his immigration status were unclear to him. No, that's not so good. His declaration did not mention the evidence of Lohr's criminal history or his removal order that was already given to this lawyer, nor did it explain why that evidence was so doubtful and why it made it unclear. It's very clear on its face to everybody except this guy. And although Schroeder stated that he had personal knowledge of the facts stated in the declaration, he said he made several statements on knowledge and belief, on information and belief. He's got no basis for that information or belief. That there were people similarly situated to Lohr in another group of Venezuelans who were also flown down to El Salvador. He also filed a motion for a class certification. He said that Lohr's claims were typical of a class and it should apply to everybody. But man, he got carried away. Now on June 3rd, in response to this, Schroeder argued that personal jurisdiction was lacking because he's in Guam. And then Texas dismissed the habeas. They said, no, your claim is gone, so get out. Noting that his filing did not even address the argument that you don't have jurisdiction. He's gone, so you don't have jurisdiction anymore. The district court further found that Lohr and Schroeder lacked a basis in law and fact to seek relief. Schroeder did not withdraw the petition, and his pending motions are still going. So then on June 5th, the government responded to the TRO. The government also opposed class certification. Schroeder replied. In the reply, he said the government's evidence of the removal was an unnoticed allegation and just continues to fight. Then on Saturday, the court held a hearing. He again said the government designated Lohr an alien enemy. We're like, dude, how many times do we have to tell you? INA, official removal order. The court next asked why Schroeder, the court says, wait a minute, what? The court, in response to this court's question whether he was, quote, arguing in his motion here before this court that he's under the AEA, he's operating under the AEA, the lawyer said, yes, I'm here suing under the AEA. So then the court said, well, why did you, the lawyer, say that Lohr did not get notice of removal? Why did you say that he didn't get notice? Because they say he did. They have a document that says he got it. So like, why did you tell me they didn't get it? They say that this lawyer didn't give a responsive answer. The court asked whether Schroeder disputed any of the documents the government had submitted as evidence. And he again gave a non-responsive answer. They said, well, he has an INA order. Like, did you get a copy of that? They said you got a copy of that, lawyer. Did you see it? Again, non-responsive. He said, well, those documents had not been given to his government before they tried, his lawyer, before the government tried to remove him. So then the court again asked the lawyer, okay, well, is the government's filing of the documents in Texas, was that the first time that he got notice about Lohr's immigration history, lawyer? He said, well, no, I actually had a little bit of history because I was a California attorney and Lohr's crime was committed there, right? So like, in other words, he knows how it works in California. He could have looked up his criminal record, his criminal charges, and found them immediately. But he says, I'm unclear about what it is because he's, in my opinion, lying. This court attempted to clarify the extent of Schroeder's previous knowledge of immigration history. Okay, well, when did you find out? Did you search for it? Did you look for it? Did you get his file? Did the other immigration lawyer, what was it? Continued to give non-responsive answers because he's busted. Eventually, he stated that he first received the documents via the government's opposition to his TRO in Texas. Finally, he's like, no, I learned after, okay? I wasn't dishonest at the outset. I learned about it. Now I'm discovering it. With that information, the court then said, well, what about okay, so now you know that he's committed of a crime and he's got a removable order under the INA. So now what's your position now that you know that? He said, well, this is not a normal immigration way of handling cases, of handling a removal. So in other words, I don't like it. And again asserted without any authority that the government should have given notice of removal to his lawyers first before they can remove him. Now, redirecting Schroeder from discussing a different case, the court's like, all right, man, I don't know what you're talking about, but I need you to answer this. Do you understand that the government's position is that the government has already provided this guy with multiple notices before they removed him? Like, do you understand that concept? You're saying there was no notice. They clearly have given him notice. He had a whole hearing about this. Do you agree? Well, he partially agreed that he was not really pushing the Alien Enemies Act. He's saying, well, but instead saying there's an exception then within the INA. It kind of makes it like the AEA. He's like, all right. But he added, apparently the government cannot remove anyone to Laos or anywhere else without the sovereign consent of those nations. And that even if the removal proceedings had been proper, there would remain legal questions because the law must ensure that people aren't killed or destroyed because a removal order is not a license to kill. This court sought his concession. They said, all right, man, like they're trying to work with this dude. Do you concede that Laura's removal was allowed pursuant to the INA? So now that you have notice about it, do you concede that that was valid? So long, if that process was followed correctly, could they remove him? Well, he's like, well, his only remaining argument was, well, maybe, but Laos may not want to receive him. So maybe, did we check with them? Like, do they want him or not? Schroeder did not answer. Instead, reviving his argument that due process had been violated because Laura and his counsel were not told. This court returned to questions about jurisdiction. Again, more non-responsive answers. Asked whether his removal order stated the location to where he was removed. He said that he had not been served with the order, and I wasn't given it in any normal way. When asked whether he had received notice of removal, Schroeder, the lawyer, again equivocated, responding that he had received it through the court, but again, not in a normal way, whatever that means. So he continued to shift positions. In response to the court's statement that he's not in custody or facing removal under the Alien Enemies Act, he said, well, that's extremely unclear, and we don't know why he's being removed. He refused to agree that we actually know exactly why. It's the INA, and he repeated in his rebuttal that we can't remove him. So after the hearing, he filed a premature motion to stay the judgment because it sounds like he knew he was going to lose. Like he, in other words, after that hearing, he came back, prepared a filing. Okay, I know you're going to rule against me, so please stay it. On June 9th, the court entered an order. Like that hearing sounds like it was brutal. Like he just got steamrolled there. Judge is painting by numbers through that. Okay, you understand? No, I don't understand anything. All right. So the court comes back, issues an order saying you're denied. Your petition is dismissed. Deny the motion for a stay. The court said that Schroeder's filings did not address or rebut the evidence under the INA. Didn't even address it. So then Schroeder filed an appeal to the Ninth Circuit. Even though the court had entered final judgment and had not even certified a question for interlocutory appeal. So then he starts filing and he starts going nuts. He contended the government's removal of Laura was in contempt of court. Then he attacked this court, contending that this court was doing this court's best not to catch the eye of the president or his supporters, ripping the court. Schroeder filed a notice of appeal. Then the Ninth Circuit dismissed his petition because it wasn't certified. Court of Appeals denied it. That appeal is still pending. The court left in effect a briefing schedule by the notice of appeal, and so it's still going on. So the guy was just going crazy, right? Now, this court may require an attorney. Trump's DOJ is not happy about all this stuff. And this was happening at scale all across the country. So go find the bad ones, file for sanctions so that they have some skin in the game. So they know they just can't file like mad illegal lovers and impede the government. This court may require attorney's fees. And we want these sanctions to be slammed on him. There were unnecessary filings, and these are unnecessary tactics. And there are provisions that say these sanctions can be imposed personally on attorneys, especially when there's a finding of bad faith, when they're raising frivolous arguments or making bad claims. And you have an inherent power to do that. Attorneys can act recklessly, and frivolous filings are one that are baseless. Now, all of that is the rules. Now, here is the application and the argument. It says Schroeder broke those rules. As laid out above, he made myriad meritless contentions in his filings to this court, just making stuff up. Most egregiously, he said that he was being removed under the AEA, knowing that that's not true at all. That was a baseless claim, and he knew it. Schroeder also knew about the INA removal order. The government filed the notice to appear, so we gave it to him. We filed his removal order. We filed the abstract of the criminal judgment that showed what he got convicted of. 6 days. All of that were submitted as exhibits 6 days before Schroeder started his proceedings here. Then he filed his motion making claims that he should have read the previous filings and actually reflected what was in them. Schroeder admitted in response to this court's questions that he had actual notice of this. After it was docketed, he didn't correct it at all. Even if Schroeder may have had a justifiable reason to file his initial pleading, that reason did not persist once he became privy to this, and he should have updated the courts. And he knew that Lohr, who is Laotian, would not have been designated an AEA. So Schroeder had two good reasons to question this, but didn't really care. Schroeder had multiple opportunities to also inquire into this. In fact, Schroeder and Lohr spoke by phone 3 hours after Schroeder, the lawyer, was served with the INA removal order. So the lawyer could have asked the client about it. If Lohr indeed denied the validity of his removal order, that's not mentioned anywhere. Schroeder also could have looked up the info on the DOJ online docket for his removal proceeding using his A numbers, which was on the removal order. The docket reveals that Lohr had been ordered removed by the government in a proceeding in March 2018. He did not appeal it. And Schroeder, quote, was working closely with his immigration counsel, and the immigration lawyer knows why he was removed. But even if Schroeder could not have performed any of that inquiry in the 6 days, he had ample time to do that as the case developed. He had a wealth of opportunities to follow up on the removal order, but he didn't. His equivocating responses show that he knows that his position was baseless. Here's an excerpt. Lawyer says, well, there's an allegation that Lohr can be lumped in with Venezuelan nationals. There's an allegation. Court says, so are you saying your client is being included with the Venezuelan nationals as he's being removed? Like there's an allegation that he can be lumped in with the Venezuelans. Okay. Are you making that allegation right now or what? So are you saying your client is? He responds, and what I'm saying is that there is more than one proclamation. He's like, well, you didn't answer my question. Are you saying that's how this applies to your client? This court can also conclude that he knew his arguments were frivolous because his behavior, as explained below, manifested the improper purpose for blocking his removal. Now, separately from his repeated baseless assertions that Lohr was being removed under the AEA, Schroeder also knew this court lacked jurisdiction in habeas to enjoin the execution of his removal. They couldn't stop us. Indeed, his assertions were showing, and they effectively meant that the writ was suspended, is what he wrote. And they indicate that he understood what he was doing. But instead of acknowledging the contrary binding precedent, he refused to give responsive answers because he knew it didn't support him. So this court should infer, because of that waffling, that he was doing this intentionally. And even if Schroeder did not know that his arguments were frivolous, like you can be a dumb and bad lawyer, doesn't mean you're malicious or frivolous. You can just be an idiot. That's not how the law works. Says that his arguments were frivolous. At a minimum, he recklessly maintained his frivolous arguments. So he should have known after he made it, like, I didn't know. Then you know, like, oh, I better fix that. It is not just that a reasonable attorney in his circumstances would have made a proper inquiry. He was on notice. This was all being brought under the INA. Now, his conduct, even without assuming knowledge, was thus a departure from the ordinary standard of care. And he made an obvious risk of material misrepresentation. He ignored that and continued on. But what we see is clear and convincing evidence shows this lawyer made frivolous filings for an improper purpose. His improper purpose is evident from the filings. After he lost his initial motions, he filed renewed motions. He filed transfer of venues. Cases were pending all over the place, but he just kept filing. He wanted to get him stopped anywhere. He just needed the judge somewhere to sign off on it. Now, a separate basis for finding of bad faith is Schroeder's obduracy. That's a good word. He was stubbornly persistent in making baseless arguments despite notice of all the facts. And he's still doing it. He's still appealing it, saying, I was right, you're wrong. Now, this court may sanction lawyers personally under certain circumstances, especially when there's a pattern of misconduct, like we see here. And sanctions are also important to deter any other misconduct, especially when it's being done in bad faith. This is also, as we've seen from these immigration lawyers, gross disrespect for the law. What Schroeder has done is using the use of known falsehoods to try to further their advantages in court. Totally unethical and inappropriate. But that is what Schroeder has done. Having been warned multiple times that his client had a valid removal order, this lawyer nevertheless persisted in delaying the lawful execution of that order, claiming in other courts without any basis in fact the government was treating Lohr as an alien enemy. He refused to give straight answers, not only on June 7th, but also in failing to respond to our objections. This is not the conduct of a forthright but mistaken advocate. His evasiveness evidences knowledge of his guilt and his unwillingness to accept responsibility for his actions. And so, because of his pattern of knowing and his reckless misrepresentation has now extended to 3 separate courts, including you, he multiplied proceedings unnecessarily. He abused the judicial process for the improper purpose of trying to obstruct the enforcement of the immigration law like an insurrectionist. In short, none of what Schroeder has done is becoming of a lawyer, and he deserves substantial sanctions. Saying deterrence is especially important in cases like this because these are cases of national importance. Sanctions are especially warranted because this lawyer Schroeder's contentions may mislead the public and cause baseless concern about a topic of national importance, saying we're throwing people out of airplanes into the ocean. Are you what? Removal under the proclamation and the AEA is an active area of litigation. Frivolously asserting that a valid INA removal is illegal is unnecessarily inflaming this entire conversation. And so, listen, court, it is essential. We must deter the attorneys from bringing baseless grounds to delay or defeat the enforcement of the law. It's a lack of respect for the law. This is of national importance. And if you fail to deter this guy and people like this, we're going to see the filing of similar actions all around the country, which we've seen, all trying to forestall these lawful removals. And so this is going to hamstring our ability to protect Americans and get rid of people with serious criminal histories who are threatening public safety. Now, it is thus crucial, court, to use substantial monetary sanctions, fines out of that booty, to deter widespread improper filings in removal cases like this one. And so, you, court, should impose sanctions on Schroeder personally under the U.S. Code. The sanctions should include compensatory sanctions for the excess costs, expenses, and attorney's fees reasonably incurred because of his conduct. Man, that's going to be expensive too. Because like multiple plane flights back and forth, pilots up, private, charters, get back up, back down. It's a lot. And this court should also impose non-monetary sanctions as well. Coming in from the U.S. DOJ, District of Guam and elsewhere, from Mikel Schwab and Christopher Ian Pribby, trial attorneys, in against this attorney out of California, an individual now facing sanctions from the DOJ. So we'll see what the judge says about that. And I think even if the judge doesn't grant sanctions, which he may be disinclined to do, that this is a public scorn, right? This is the red scarlet letter. This is calling this dude out in public in a way that doesn't often happen from the DOJ. And, your name in law is basically everything. You have your reputation. You want to defend your integrity and your honor. And now when you have the DOJ coming out and putting on the record all of this stuff that you've done, right? He might think that he can get away with it, but now he's being called out. And this is happening not just in this case, but everywhere. We covered many immigration cases where they're just filing stuff. It's happening so quickly. Doesn't even seem like the judges are reading anything. So we'll keep our eye on this and other activity out of the DOJ. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it has been. And so, if you're just joining us, quick recap on what we covered today. Texas Democrats now apparently under the scrutiny of the FBI. Senator John Cornyn sent a letter over to Kash Patel, and he's responding saying Kash Patel has responded and they're working on it. So we don't know exactly what that means, what their assistance is, but Governor Greg Abbott also confirmed that for us, saying we're going to find them and we're also going to try to remove them and just declare that they vacated their offices. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow with some Supreme Court news, hopefully out of Texas, because we should see a filing come in from Gene Wu, the Democrat who fled. Beto is also under scrutiny, along with the George Soros organization. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton saying he's opening up investigations into both of them for potentially committing bribery, for paying legislators to not do their jobs so that policies don't get passed, which is bribing for public reasons. So we talked about that. We also went through this story about Jasmine Crockett, which was just a fun story because she's so terrible. Turns out her staff doesn't like her, and she's probably sleeping right now in her luxury apartment or in the back of an Escalade. We talked about that. She's also cutting in front of handicapped people because she's just the worst. We also saw the Texas Senate is moving this puppy forward. Trump and Ron DeSantis in Florida also talking redistricting and some good stuff there. The FBI has now fired a couple people for sure. Brian Driscoll, Stephen Jensen now gone. The start of something good. Hopefully we got many more who were involved in the J6 cases and the raiding of, targeting of Catholics and school teachers and pro-lifers and all of them. We want an actual FBI that goes after criminals like this guy who allegedly tried to sell information to the Russians. Taylor Adam Lee talked about that case before we turned our attention to the sanction filing against the lawyer in California for frivolous and baseless motions. All good stuff. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And we're very glad that you're here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sending in these donos and supporting our work. What's up, K-Bean? We got Donut and John clipping for us in the house. Man, you guys rock. Thank you for doing this. And we got some new membos coming in as well. Love those new membos. Welcome aboard, new membos. Dark Rogue, very nice one. Viva came over. Oh my goodness, man, shout out to Viva. Thank you, Viva. Viva Fry, who is right next door on Rumble and YouTube, rated our stream. What's up, Viva? Thank you for doing that, my man. We love Viva. Make sure you're checking them out, subbing up over there. Great content. Shout out to Robert Barnes, too. Julie Lambert. What's up, Julie? Thank you, Julie, for becoming a membo. And grab the members only stream from this morning. It was a good one. El Durad. What's up, El Durad? Who is the Sackler family? Looks like a handout with a pill in it or something. So the Sackler family is basically a family that owns pharmaceuticals. You think of the Sackler family when you think of the opioids, right? That they were kind of the family behind the pharmaceutical companies who was manufacturing and deploying that drug at scale. And then on the back end, once they got everybody addicted, they were operating and running treatment facilities to get people off of their addicted drugs. And they knew it was addictive and they were doing it anyways. They're basically, in my opinion, murderers and monsters. So that's them. Hey, what's up? Fred Samuel. It shouldn't be hard to find them all since they are going on national TV and just running their mouths. We know where Jasmine is. She doesn't even leave her building, apparently. So just go pick her up. I don't know. Off-label pod, what's up? Hey, haha, great minds think alike. The Crockett full of story is our leadoff tonight. It's a good one. Till she is gone and never in front of a camera again, we're not letting up on her over there at Off-Label Podcast. She deserves all the ire that she gets from Off-Label Podcast. It's going to be a great stream. We'll send some folks over your way if you're up as we wrap it here. Hey, Dark Rogue. What's going on? Dark Rogue, thank you. Very nice dono. Very generous. Says, yeah, sounds like you're going Dark Rogue. Says, I have a theory on all this redistricting. JD is in Indiana, and part of the convo is about redistricting. What is already a supermajority for Republicans? Why? Well, Dems will stop them with court orders, and when they do, it'll stop the Democrats too. Yeah, that's an interesting one from Dark Rogue. Yeah, so in other words, it's like an anticipatory strike, like you want to go file and get it changed or start the battle now. And I think that's a smart play. You want to go on the offense rather than waiting for the Democrats to take that mound. Okay, so you just got to start filing everywhere, basically. And it's a redistricting blood sport everywhere you turn. And I think it is interesting. JD's traveling around. JD Vance, we played this morning too, said that the meeting last night was not about Epstein, right? It might have actually been more about stuff like this. So we need, like, the Democrats have been playing on all of these fronts. They had our country invaded so that they could count them in the census, so they could get more Senate seats and more House seats and have more apportionment provided to them, more federal funds. So you got to stop that. Got to stop the invasion. Got to stop the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship stuff that is also being exploited. So one after another. The redistricting thing, the gerrymandering, they've done that all over the place. We talked about the numbers yesterday. So I think that it's smart and the Republicans should do this. Like, we don't have a lot of time. So we want to make sure that we're using the power appropriately, just like the Democrats did. Dark Rogue, thank you for the nice generosity today, my friend. Really generous. Says 20 new membos coming in. I'm Salty Dog. Welcome. Forgotten America, Pinochet's Helicopter Tourist, Dacula Boy, welcome. CGI Joe, what's up? Altered Lori, Andrews is here. CJ Ken Ward, what's up? Jack D. Luke, Daniel James is here. Sean Register, Cheryl Lau, Level 66. We got Daisy Chain, KS, Lauren Wimberly, what's up? Gardening LSB, Peng 1463, Fred Samuel, what's up? QMP, Roger Needham is in the house, and the Duchess of Picture Rocks, all joining up. Courtesy of Dark Rogue. Thank you, Dark Rogue OG in the house. Very nice. Lots of thanks in the chat for you. Thank you. Wes Downer. Hey, I realize I'm sort of ADHD or hyper, but why is Jasmine Crockett fleeing when she doesn't work in Austin? Is it out of solidarity with the Texas legislators? She's like, yeah, no, I fled with you guys. She's never left her couch. She's been on her couch this entire time. No, yeah, fleeing with you guys, yeah. I don't know. She probably wants to fly in the private jets. So I would imagine, oops, kick that little camera tripod over here. Let's fix that over there. Perfect. Move that back over there. All right, got it. All right, so yeah, Wes Downer. I don't know what she's doing. Nobody really knows what Jasmine Crockett's doing. Not even Jasmine. Ravicus. I am arguing with a friend right now. He is saying that Trump's census redo is not constitutional. Is it or is it not constitutional? Well, I think maybe it depends on, I don't know what his argument is or about what, how to respond to it specifically. But if his argument is that you can only do it every 10 years because that's in the Constitution, I think the response to that argument would be that it's not actually, that's just a floor. Like, you have to do that. You have to do a census every 10 years at minimum because that's how representation works. But you can do it every 2 years or 5 years. And there's different rules by statute about what happens and when you can change the elections. And we looked a lot of this up this morning, Ravicus. We were asking ourselves, how does the process work on the member stream? How quickly can the Republicans get it done? Could they implement it before the midterms? Any of this census and reapportionment? Unlikely, but maybe. Operation Warp Speed. Wes Downer, what's up? Thank you, Wes, for bringing in 10 new friends. Very nice of you to do that. Look at this. Eagle something. Amazing. Hooterville, Texas. Sounds like a great place. Colin Boyer, what's up? Donnie Sin, Drew the Dogman, Todd Fredrickson, Carlette, the Viking is here. WV Mountaineer in the house. America First, welcome. And Leland Chung in the house. Wes, thanks for bringing in 10 new Membo friends. Chubby Stubby, what's up? No taxation without representation. All people in a state disproportionately represented should be able to sue for the return of all taxes paid or proper representation. That won't happen. The judges will pull their default, no standing BS, but it should happen. Yeah, I mean, if you're a Republican in a blue state and you have zero representation at all, is that how it should be? And we've made the argument here that we should have like 5,000 representatives. Actually, we should actually have one rep for every 50,000 people, just like the founders did. If that ratio is good enough for them, then why is it not good enough for us? And we can do a lot of this digitally. We don't need them all in one building. Mock Schnell, 20 new membos. coming in, courtesy of Mock Chanel. Thank you for doing this, Mock Chanel. Welcome 20 new Membo friends. Stick around for the after party where we will debrief for a bit. Timmy Bow, welcome. The voice of patriarchy is here. Igris Crusande, our new reality is here. King's fan, Diana Arco. We got Janet Petit, True Crime Grammy. Joey D, welcome. Cal Gore, Halipciano. What's up, Sir Schmangle the Good? Michaela Chrisman, Dr. Cavenger. We got Ava Angel, Sherry Ann Connolly, Sonus NAZ. We got Wayward Lone, ER and Troyer, CGI Joe, and Lizard Binal in the house. All gifted membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing it. And a comment. Hey, great shows today, Rob. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Appreciate you saying that. As Wes said this morning, August is generally a down month for the market, but the volatility is good for my day and week trading as I trade on the waves, which lets me do those membos. Man, it sounds like you guys have the markets figured out. And smart people out there. King of Biltong, what's up? Get your Biltong, BiltongUSA.com. Use code Robert. You'll save 10% off. It's got B12, iron, zinc, creatine, high protein. You'll love it. Get some Biltong, BiltongUSA.com. Thanks for the dono, Biltong. Guillotine Builder. Jensen is the one that Steve Friend and Kyle Seraphin hated. Is that right? From Guillotine Builder? I imagine that's true. I think they were all very, very aggressive towards their political ends. And it's disgusting when you are asking somebody to honor their position and they abuse that position. Hey, what's up, Ginger? McElf Fresh Art. OMG, Rob. A whistleblower just blew the lid off of J6 and Fannie Willis case. It's on Project Veritas's YouTube channel. Link posted on X. It was Bill Barr. That's interesting. Bill Barr. So, yeah, shout out to Project Veritas and James O'Keefe. Thank you for flagging it for us. Ginger McHealth Fresh Art. We'll take a look at it and see what's going on over there. Bonnie. Technically speaking, we can already do a census if DOJ created an algorithm to access Social Security records that does have immigration status. With the UCIS ICE records, both databases should have updated addresses. They can cross-reference by immigration status, age, and zip code, at least for this purpose, to reallocate how many representatives each state gets. What I get for studying immigration laws. It's been fun. For current addresses, they could even access the IRS records if they needed to. Bonnie, man, it sounds like a great plan. I should put you in charge of this. Hey, to Bob. What's up? Bob Nice. Thank you, Bob, for being nice and bringing in one new membo. Not That Karen is here. Amazing. Welcome, Not That Karen. Knox Bierman, defense attorney in Texas. Peter Navarro's on Substack? Hey, Peter Navarro is on Substack and writes inter alia about all the crappy prison ripoffs. How prison rips you off. Well, he knows because he was in prison because of the Democrats. Hey, Milan. Yeah, Corey Mills under investigation. Not sure what the Dems have cooked up, but here we go again with the BS. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with that one. I saw some pretty serious headlines. I saw that he also hired a defense attorney. So, of course, want to wait to see what his side of the story is and see what the defense attorneys say. But yeah, those allegations were pretty interesting. James Hobbs. What's up, James Hobbs? Great to see you in the house. Thank you for the dono. Thumbs up back at you, my man. Thank you for saying that and being here. Chat with me. Any watcher heard this? President Trump and Pam Bondi are now offering $50 million for the arrest of Nicolas Maduro, president of Venezuela. I think I saw that. I don't know if that's true or not. So I don't know the answer to that. Chat with me, but it's an interesting one. Chubby, that dolt should be disbarred, not just sanctioned. Heck, deport him to Laos with his client. I don't know if he's a citizen or not, but it's a good point. Who else but John? Who else but John? John McGarvey, 36 months as a membo. That's 3 full years. Happy anniversary to us, John. John's put up with some serious crap for me over here for the years. Has junk food really been removed from food stamps? Prayers. I think so. I think I saw that from Kennedy and those people. Didn't they come out and make a video about that? Something. I don't know if it's all the junk food, but probably some of it. So it's good stuff. Hey, what's up? The way you wear your hat is now a supporter. The way you wear your hat. Welcome aboard. Very nice to have you. This old guy says Schroeder needs to go home and check on his cat. He's very upset. I mean, he's like, you just write a blog, okay? Just go start a Substack and just scream about it on there. Like, don't scream about it to the judge. 36 months is 4 babies? Oh my goodness, is that true? Someone get a spreadsheet out. John, 4 babies, that's a lot. Hey, 2-tier for 29 months. Does the 3/5 compromise Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 mean illegals like slaves are 3/4 of apportionment for the census? No. They get full apportionment. So the illegals are even in historical context worth more than the slaves were in America. Yeah. So no, they count for one. It's a 1-for-1. It's not 3/5. I mean, answer that seriously. But also, that was repealed out of the Constitution. No longer applies, obviously, after the Civil War. So Pinochet's helicopter tours. Lawyers should be subject to strict liability. Sorry if that's a hot take. So yeah, so strict liability is like, if it doesn't matter what your knowledge is, like your intent is. So you see strict liability generally applied in the statutory grape cases where you have somebody who's 25. I had no idea she was 16. Well, it doesn't matter. You didn't know? Doesn't matter. She looks like she's 19. Doesn't matter. She's 16. But I didn't know. Too bad. Doesn't matter. Because you did the thing. If you did the thing, you're now guilty. So I guess it depends on what the lawyers do. What we're actually talking about. Neuro D, what's up? Just a reminder to help Kimmy in her cancer fight. GiveSendGo.com/Kimmy Guy. Neuro D, thanks for flagging that for us. And for sending the link in. Muffin Rando, 22 months as a membo. Great to see you. Says, K-Bean, best mod in the interwebs and the whole galaxy. It's true. Arguably the universe. It's true. We love K-Bean. Deborah Meyer, hey, I was wondering, do you ever get thirsty? You talk fast and nonstop. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it. But I was just wondering, thanks for all you do. Well, there's a little secret. I mean, I don't tell you guys this, but when I go off like camera right here, there may or may not be a slurping of a sip going on here like this. Yeah, delicious. Yummy. Perfect. So, it's a little secret little maneuver I do. Now you know the magic. Magician never reveals his tricks. So I will sometimes refresh the parched mouth because we don't want our mouths to be parched lest they turn into parchment. Rick D. And thank you for your concern, Deborah Myers. I do need to stay hydrated. What's up, Rick D? So these were plastered all over his neighborhood. The redacted part is his home address. Wow. Look at that. These maniacs are targeting Stephen Miller. Hopefully Kash Patel has seen this, right? This is a targeting of a public official. And they better be on that. So thank you for that, Rick D. Rick posted this as he was jumping out of an airplane after he was refereeing a billiard game. So it's amazing. He posts too. So good. MJ Powell, thank you for sending that one in. MJ Powell says, hello, Robert, and all listening today. 23 months in the house from MJ Powell. You're amazing. At least. We are growing a family of watchers. Great news for us all. It is great news. MJ Powell, thanks for sending that in. It's a real honor and a privilege to be able to spend this time with you. Thank you for being here for 15 months, a.k.a. 23 months, a.k.a. a lot longer than that, MJ Powell. We know how long you've been around. We're grateful for you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being an amazing membo. And membos, stick around because we're going to pause here for the evening, but we're having our after party. And so YouTube friends, I will post a link in the live chat if you want to join us for the members only after party, or you can go to the main channel homepage and hit the refresh button. We also have our locals friends watching thewatchers.locals.com, and just hang tight. We'll be back in a jiff. We got some comments over on X. Hey, Crypto Nerd. What's going on, Crypto Nerd? Hey, thank you, Robert, for what you do. Man, thank you, Crypto Nerd. Nice of you to say that. Thanks for saying what's up on X. Darby Shaw. Please make sure the arresting agent's body cams are turned on. Eric C., what's up? Great to see you. Gina Carano is having a huge win. Undisclosed amount of money. Good for her. And more slap on the hand trial, says Danny McWilliams. Nothing will happen. Prove me wrong. Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what goes on over there in Texas, but it sounds like they're getting some activity. So we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, my friends, we're going to come back tomorrow. I want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths before we wrap it up. Shout out to John and Donut Mind Me for modding the fort down this afternoon. Carrie B, K Bean, amazing. Of course, Neuro D, Janek, and Dog Digger over on the Rumbles, along with Just Rhonda, Gigum, and Elliot. Grateful for everybody who helps keep this train on the tracks here, my friends. But we're going to pause here for the evening, of course. Tomorrow, we're coming back. It's going to be a Friday. We're excited about that. It's not here yet, but it will be soon. And we're coming back tomorrow to get into it again. And so in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chatting line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers, shining the light. Watching the watchers, defending what's right. Watching the watchers, stay each night together and live.